That's the first thing my sister said to me the moment I stepped into the room. Not hi, not even a glance of surprise, just that. Cold, flat, final. And here's the thing she didn't whisper it, she wanted everyone to hear. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I remember stopping right there, my hand still on the door handle, like maybe I'd walked into the wrong place. Like maybe this wasn't where I was supposed to be. But it was. Dark wood table, leather chairs, the faint smell of polished floors, and something older, something heavier, a law office. My grandmother's will reading. So let me ask you something. If your entire family looked at you like you were a mistake just for showing up, would you stay or would you walk out? Because I stayed. I stepped inside anyway. My name's on the list, I said quietly, closing the door behind me. Vanessa, my sister, 27, always perfectly put together, always certain she's in control, just scoffed like I'd said something embarrassing. No, she said, it's really not. Behind her, Uncle Richard leaned back in his chair, arms crossed like he owned the room. Why is she even here? He asked, not bothering to lower his voice. And then Lila, of course Lila, let out a small laugh. She gets nothing anyway. That one landed. Not because it surprised me, but because of how sure she sounded. Like it wasn't even up for discussion. Like I was just background noise. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself, because here's the truth they didn't know. I wasn't here to fight them. I was here to watch, to wait. I'm to see something through to the end. I took a seat at the far end of the table, not next to anyone, not across from anyone important, just there. Invisible, the way they preferred me. And for a moment, everything went quiet again, except for one person, Mr. Calder, the attorney. He hadn't said a word yet, not when I walked in, not when they questioned me, not even when Vanessa tried to dismiss me like I wasn't real. He just watched, older, late 50s, maybe early 60s, sharp eyes behind thin glasses. The kind of man who notices things people think they've hidden. And for just a second, his eyes met mine, not with confusion, not with judgment, recognition. It was quick, easy to miss, but I caught it, and something in my chest shifted. Not because suddenly, I wasn't so sure I was the only one in the room who knew something was off. Vanessa tapped her nails against the table, impatient. Can we start? She said. We all know how this is going to go. Do we? I almost smiled at that. Almost, because if there was one thing my grandmother never was, it was predictable. Evelyn Schuyler didn't play simple games. She played long ones, careful ones. The kind where you didn't even realize you were part of it until it was already over. And I knew that better than anyone in that room. Because while they were busy showing up for holidays, posing for photos, pretending to be close, I was the one she called, the one she wrote to, the one she spoke to when no one else was listening. But they didn't know that. To them, I was just the girl who didn't belong, Mister. And Calder finally cleared his throat. And just like that, the room shifted. Thank you all for coming, he said, folding his hands neatly over a stack of papers. His voice was calm, measured, professional, but there was something underneath it, something deliberate. We will now proceed with the reading of Evelyn Schuyler's final will and testament. I felt my fingers tighten slightly against my lap. Not from nerves, not exactly. More like anticipation, like standing on the edge of something you can't quite see yet. But you know it's going to change everything. Vanessa leaned forward, already smiling. Uncle Richard relaxed, confident. Lila glanced at her phone, bored. And me? I stayed still. Because I remembered something my grandmother said the last time I saw her. Her voice had been softer than usual, mine careful. Beatrice, she told me, looking straight at me in that way she always did, like she could see through every layer I had. When the time comes, she paused, and then, don't argue. A beat. Just be there. Back then, I didn't understand what she meant. But sitting there, in that room, With everyone already deciding I didn't matter, I finally did. Mr. Calder picked up the first page, and just before he began, he glanced up again. This time, not at the room, at me. And for a split second, his expression changed. Like he was about to say something he knew would break everything. And that's when I realized this wasn't going to go the way they thought, not even close. And they had no idea what was coming. You could see it in the way Vanessa sat, shoulders back, chin slightly raised, like she was already accepting congratulations no one had given yet. Have you ever watched someone feel entitled to something before it's even theirs? That was her, and honestly, it wasn't just her, it was all of them. Mr. Calder began reading, his voice steady, almost detached. Personal belongings to be distributed as follows: jewelry, watches, art pieces, small accounts. Nothing major yet, but every item came with reactions. Vanessa nodded like she approved of each decision. Lila leaned over to whisper, occasionally smirking. Uncle Richard barely reacted at all. He was waiting for the real prize. And me? I watched, because this part didn't matter. Not really. Still, something about it felt important. Not the items themselves, but how easily they claimed them. Like my grandmother's life had already been sorted, nor packaged and handed out long before this moment. And I couldn't help but think, did they even know her, or just what she had? Diamond bracelet to Vanessa Schuyler. She smiled wider at that one. Of course she did. Vintage watch to Richard Schuyler. A small nod. Expected. Routine. Everything was going exactly the way they thought it would. And that's what made it feel wrong. Because my grandmother wasn't routine, she didn't follow expectations, she rewrote them. I shifted slightly in my chair, my fingers brushing against something in my pocket. Small. Cold. Still there. I didn't take it out. Not yet. Instead, I let my mind drift, just for a second, back to her. Back to the quiet afternoons in her house, when no one else was around. She never treated me like I was temporary. It had never like I was less. She'd ask questions no one else bothered to. What do you notice about people, Beatrice? Not what do you think, not what do you feel. What do you notice? And I learned. I learned to watch, to listen, to understand what people showed and what they hid. Like right now. Vanessa wasn't just confident, she was certain. Too certain. Which meant one of two things. Either she knew something, or she thought she did. Primary residence to be determined under final clause. That line. That was the first crack. It was subtle, easy to miss, but I saw it. Vanessa's smile flickered. Just for a second. Wait, she said, sitting up straighter. What does that mean? Mr. Calder didn't answer immediately. He simply turned the page. And that's when Uncle Richard leaned forward. Let's not drag this out, he said. We all understand Evelyn's intentions. Do you? Because I wasn't so sure anymore. Neither apparently was Mr. Calder. He adjusted his glasses slightly, scanning the next section more carefully than before. That was new. Up until now, everything had been smooth. Practiced. But now, there was hesitation. And hesitation means something's off. Lila noticed it too. What? She said. Why are you pausing? No answer, just silence. Heavy, uncomfortable. The kind that creeps in slowly and settles in your chest. And then, Mr. Calder looked up. Not at Vanessa, not at Uncle Richard. At the room. Then, at his papers again. Like he was double-checking something. Before I proceed, he said slowly, I need to confirm something. Vanessa exhaled sharply. What now? His eyes moved again. I'm scanning, searching, and then they landed on me. Fully this time, no mistaking it. Is Beatrice Schuyler present? The room went still for half a second, and then Lila laughed, actually laughed. You're kidding, right? She said. Why would she matter? Vanessa didn't even look at me. She's here, she said dismissively. But she's not relevant. Not relevant. Funny. Because suddenly, it felt like I was the only thing that was. Mr. Calder didn't smile, didn't react. just continued to look at me like he was waiting for something specific. Not acknowledgement, not permission, confirmation. And that's when something shifted. Not in the room, in them. You could feel it. That tiny crack of uncertainty starting to spread. Uncle Richard frowned slightly. Vanessa's fingers stopped tapping. Lila went quiet. Or because for the first time, this wasn't following their script. And me? I could feel it too. That moment my grandmother had warned me about. The one she told me not to fight, not to explain, just to be there. This was it. I straightened slightly in my chair, didn't rush, didn't hesitate. And finally, after everything, I spoke. One word. Here. Mr. Calder's expression changed instantly. Not confusion, not surprise, recognition, confirmation, like a missing piece had just clicked into place. And the moment that happened, everything else in the room started to unravel. He sat up straighter, pulled a different document forward, and said, carefully, "Then we can continue." Vanessa frowned. What does that mean? But no one answered her, because something had just shifted. And deep down, they all felt it. That they just didn't understand it yet, but they were about to. You could actually hear it, the shift. Not loud, not dramatic, just subtle, like the air got heavier, like something invisible had just walked into the room and taken a seat at the table. And suddenly, Vanessa wasn't smiling anymore. Mr. Calder adjusted the new document in front of him, smoothing it out with slow, deliberate movements. No rush, no hesitation now. Whatever uncertainty he had before, gone, replaced with something else. Certainty. Before proceeding, he said, his tone sharper now, I am required to verify identity for a specific clause. Vanessa let out a quiet, irritated laugh. A clause? She repeated. For what? This is unnecessary. Unnecessary. That word hung in the air for a second. Because if there's one thing I'd learned from my grandmother, nothing she did was unnecessary. Mr. Calder didn't even look at Vanessa this time. His attention stayed on me. Please state your full name, he said. And just like that, every eye in the room turned, fully. No more ignoring me. No more pretending I wasn't there. Now I was the center of it. Funny how fast that changes. Beatrice Schuyler, I said calmly. No shaking voice, no hesitation. Just truth. He nodded once, then asked the next question. Date of birth? March 12th. Another nod. A quiet pause. And then he flipped to the final page. That's when Vanessa leaned forward again, her patience cracking. Okay, seriously, what is this about? She snapped. Can we move on? Uncle Richard added, more controlled but just as tense. This is highly irregular. Irregular. Another interesting word. Because now even they could feel it. Something wasn't lining up. Something wasn't following the version of reality they walked in with. Mr. Calder finally looked at them, calm, unbothered. No, he said simply. This is exactly as instructed. That landed. Hard. Because suddenly, this wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. And that's the moment I saw it. The first real flicker of doubt crossed Vanessa's face. Just a crack. But enough. Per Evelyn Schuyler's final directive, Mr. Calder continued, the distribution of the primary estate is contingent upon the confirmed presence of one individual. Silence. No one interrupted this time. Because now, they were listening. Really listening. And I could feel my heartbeat. Not faster, only not panicked, just steady. Like I'd already stepped into something that had been waiting for me. For clarity, he added, if that individual is not present at the time of reading, the estate defaults to the secondary beneficiary. Vanessa's posture shifted instantly. There it was, relief. See, she thought. This is where it corrects itself. Right, she said quickly, so we can move on. But Mr. Calder didn't move, didn't flip the page, didn't even blink, because he wasn't done. And if that individual is present, he continued slowly, the estate transfers in full, effective immediately. Now the room didn't just feel heavy. It felt tight. like the walls were closing in just enough to make breathing noticeable. Vanessa didn't speak this time. She was waiting, watching, trying to read ahead, trying to regain control. And Uncle Richard leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Who is the primary beneficiary?" he asked, direct, sharp, demanding. And finally, Mr. Calder answered, but not the way they expected. He didn't say a name, not yet. Instead, he looked at me again, locked in. "You are Beatrice Schuyler," he said, voice steady, "granddaughter of Evelyn Schuyler. Can you confirm?" I nodded. Simple. Yes. And that's when everything started breaking, because in that moment, it stopped being theoretical, stopped being procedural. It became real. Vanessa shook her head slightly, already resisting it. "No," she said under her breath. "No, that's not." But she didn't finish, because Mr. Calder finally lowered his eyes to the page and read the line that changed everything. "I, Beatrice Schuyler, is hereby designated as the sole primary beneficiary of the Schuyler estate." Silence. Not the kind you fill, not the kind that fades, the kind that locks everything in place. Vanessa blinked. Once, twice, like her brain just refused to process what it heard. Lila looked between them, confused. Uncle Richard didn't move at all. And me? I didn't react. Because I already knew. This wasn't the end of it. Not yet. Because there was still one thing they didn't understand. One piece they hadn't seen. And without it, this didn't make sense. Mr. Calder looked back up, straight at me. "And upon verification of the final condition," he said quietly, "the transfer will be completed." Vanessa snapped. "What condition?" she demanded. And for the first time, I moved, slowly, deliberately. My hand slipped into my pocket, and I felt it again. That small, cold object my grandmother gave me. The one she told me never to lose. The one I hadn't shown anyone. Until now. I pulled it out, held it up just enough for the light to catch it. A small engraved key, and the second they saw it, something changed. Not confusion, not disbelief, recognition, but not from them. From Mr. Calder. His face shifted immediately. Everything clicked. And that's when I realized this was the moment she planned. And they were completely unprepared for it. The second the light hit it, the entire room shifted again. But this time, it wasn't subtle. It was immediate, sharp, final. Mr. Calder straightened in his chair like something had just been confirmed beyond doubt. Not guessed, not assumed, confirmed. Yes, he said quietly, almost to himself at first. Then louder, clearer. "That satisfies the final condition." And just like that, whatever control Vanessa thought she still had, gone. "Wait, what?" she said, her voice cracking for the first time since I walked in. "What condition? What is that?" Her eyes locked onto the key in my hand like it didn't belong there. Like I didn't. Uncle Richard stood slightly from his chair now, tension visible in the way his jaw tightened. "Explain," he said firmly. "Right now." And this time, Mr. Calder didn't delay. "That key," he said, gesturing toward my hand, "corresponds to a private safety deposit box registered under Evelyn Schuyler's name." A pause. Then, "It contains supplementary documentation required to validate the primary beneficiary designation." Silence. But not the same silence as before. This one was louder, heavier. Because now, this wasn't just words on paper, this was proof. Vanessa shook her head, already rejecting it. No, that doesn't make any sense. Why would she give that to her?" She didn't say my name, still couldn't. Lila leaned forward, squinting slightly. "What's in the box?" she asked. And for a second, I considered answering, but I didn't, because I didn't have to. Mr. Calder already was. "Inside," he said, "are recorded statements, signed documents, and a formal letter outlining Evelyn Schuyler's reasoning and intent." Uncle Richard's expression darkened. "Intent?" he repeated. "Intent for what?" And then, Mr. Calder said it, slowly, clearly, like there was no room left for misunderstanding. Intent to transfer full control of her estate to Beatrice Schuyler, based on long-term personal evaluation and trust. That word again, trust. The same one my grandmother used, the same one no one else in this room ever earned. Vanessa let out a short, disbelieving laugh, but there was no confidence in it now. "This is ridiculous," she said. "You're telling me she just, what, gave everything away to someone she didn't barely know me." I didn't raise my voice, didn't interrupt, just spoke. And that was enough, because it cut straight through her sentence like it had no weight at all. For the first time, Vanessa actually looked at me, not past me, not through me, at me. And there it was, that moment, that realization, slow, uncomfortable, unavoidable. "You," she started but didn't finish, because now, when she didn't know what to say, none of them did. Mr. Calder continued, his tone steady, almost clinical. "The documentation details consistent communication between Evelyn Schuyler and Beatrice Schuyler over several years, including documented visits, written correspondence, and recorded conversations. Every word landed like evidence in a case that had already been decided. Because it had, just not by them. Additionally," he added, "Evelyn Schuyler expressed explicit concern that Beatrice Schuyler would be excluded or dismissed by other family members. This clause was designed to ensure her presence and to confirm her identity beyond dispute." That hit hard, because suddenly, this wasn't just about inheritance. This was about expectation, prediction. She knew. She knew exactly how this would play out. Every comment, and every dismissal, every word they said when I walked in, she already accounted for it. Vanessa's face went pale. Uncle Richard slowly sat back down. And Lila? She didn't say anything at all anymore. Because now, they understood. Not just what was happening, but why. And that's the part that changed everything. I looked down at the key in my hand again, felt its weight. Not heavy, but certain. Like it had always been meant to end up exactly here. In this moment. In this room. With all of them watching. And finally, Mr. Calder closed the folder in front of him. "It is my duty to formally recognize," he said, "that as of this moment, Beatrice Schuyler is the sole legal beneficiary of the Schuyler estate. No pauses, no hesitation, no room left to argue. It is effective immediately." And that's when it happened. The silence broke, but not with words, with understanding. Because in that exact moment, they all saw it. Not just the outcome, not just the shift in power, but the truth they had ignored for years. I was never the outsider, never the afterthought, never the one who didn't belong. I was the one she chose, and now, they knew it too. But what they didn't know was what happened next. Because here's the part no one talks about. Not the reveal, not the shock, but what comes after the truth settles in. That moment when there's nothing left to argue and nowhere left to hide. The room didn't explode into chaos. It didn't turn dramatic or loud. It did something worse. It went quiet. Vanessa sat there, completely still. Mine staring at the table like if she didn't look at me, this wouldn't be real. Uncle Richard leaned back slowly, exhaling through his nose, calculating, already trying to find a way around something that couldn't be undone. And Lila? She was the first to detach. I saw it in her eyes. That subtle shift from confidence to distance, like she was already deciding which side of this she wanted to be on. Because now, there were sides, and I was no longer the weakest one in the room. Mr. Calder gathered the documents neatly, his job essentially done, but his presence still grounding everything. "Copies of all materials will be made available," he said calmly, "including the contents of the safety deposit box once accessed." Vanessa finally spoke. Low, tight. "This isn't over." I looked at her. Really look this time. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel smaller. "It actually is," I said. Not cold, not emotional, just certain. Because legally, there was nothing left to fight. The recorded statements, the signed documents, the conditional clause. My grandmother didn't leave gaps. She closed them. Completely. Later that day, I went with Mr. Calder to the bank. The key fit perfectly. Of course it did. Inside the safety deposit box, Everything, neatly organized, carefully preserved. There were letters addressed to me, documents outlining her decisions, and recordings, video files where she spoke clearly, directly, leaving no room for interpretation. She explained everything: why she chose me, why she structured the will the way she did, why she knew they would try to erase me from this moment. They value control, she said in one of the recordings, her voice steady. But control is not the same as understanding. And then, they never listened. You did. That was it. No mystery left, no confusion, no doubt. I didn't cry in the office. I didn't react in front of them. But sitting there, alone, watching her speak to me one last time, that's when it hit. Not the money, not the house, not the power, her choice. The fact that she saw me, fully, when no one else did. And she didn't just see me, she trusted me, enough to give me everything. That kind of clarity, it doesn't feel loud. It feels still, like something finally settling into place after being out of alignment your entire life. And then, everything shifted. Not just in that room, but everywhere. Legally, the estate transferred within weeks. My no contest was successful because there was nothing to contest. Every move had been anticipated and blocked. Socially, Vanessa called me 3 days later, different tone, careful, measured. We should talk, she said. Not we need to fix this. Not this isn't fair. Just we should talk. Uncle Richard reached out too, more direct. We can come to an arrangement. An arrangement. Like this was still negotiable. Like I was still someone they could manage. Lila, she sent a message, short. I didn't know. That was it. No apology, just distance. Exactly what I expected. I didn't rush to answer any of them, because for the first time, I didn't have to react. I got to choose. And that changed everything. I met Vanessa once, in a quiet cafe, neutral ground. She looked the same, perfect, composed. Yeah, but there was something missing now. Certainty. You could share it, she said carefully. That would be fair. Fair. I almost smiled at that. Was it fair, I asked, when you told me I didn't belong? She didn't answer, because there wasn't one. I'm not taking anything from you, I said. I'm just not giving it back. That was the end of it. Clean. Final. A few weeks later, I stood in front of the house, the Schuyler house, the one they all thought would be theirs, the one I wasn't even supposed to step into. And now, it was mine. I unlocked the door, walked inside, slowly, quietly, no tension, no noise, just space. Real space. I moved through the rooms, noticing everything the way she taught me, the details, the stillness, the history. And eventually, I found myself in her chair, and the same one she used to sit in during those quiet afternoons. I held the key in my hand again, turned it slightly between my fingers. Not because I needed it anymore, but because it reminded me this was never about proving them wrong. It was about something else entirely, something simpler, something they never understood. I leaned back slightly, looking out across the room, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was visiting. I didn't feel like I was tolerated, or overlooked, or temporary. I felt placed, exactly where I was supposed to be. They said I didn't belong there, I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else. A small pause. Then, but this was the only place I ever did. And this time, there was no one left to disagree.